Hey guys, it's me, Pastor Jay, aka Jalen Smith, and I'm going to go over a little bit of the history of the church. Listen, I'm not doing a whole bunch of makeup, a whole bunch of a setup, because this is really the authentic way that we do worship here. I don't even preach in shoes. So if you were looking for a really fancy video where my hair was done and my makeup was on point, today's not that day. But that's okay. Just look around the room. I'm probably somewhere dressed at this particular moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a few pictures today, and you guys are going to kind of see a little bit of our growth and some of our first moments, and just kind of as I'm talking, just going over the history of the church. We'll kind of get into that. I do have notes in front of me, and I'm going to read them. Like, I'm not, again, this isn't a formal process. This is informal because that's the way we roll around here. And being authentic and being true to who I am as an individual is a large part of why, we do things the way we do. Now, the gathering did officially begin our first service was September the 9th, 2018. That was a Sunday. And in our first service in attendance, we had myself, my guitar Betsy, we had Pastor Davis, and we had Pastor Emeritus Ken Kelly. And this service that day was pretty much traditional. I was still technically a minister in training. And so part of what we were doing at that point was not only starting services, but also making sure I knew how to do my job. That particular Sunday was pretty traditional, except for I apologized a lot because that's what I do, or at least that's what I did at the time. So I'm really grateful that Mr. Ken and Mr. Sean, which is who I refer to each as, were really gracious on that particular Sunday. Today makes our 5-year anniversary. And so I'm really excited about that because when we started, I had no idea what it would look like or what we would do, because we had to format things a little bit more different to accommodate the needs of the body. And that's one of the great things about having house church is that you can make accommodations based on what we need. And I think that God has given us a lot of flexibility in that area. That's something that churches may or may not be able to do in a larger setting. So in a smaller setting, we can see directly what each individual needs. Part of that is understanding what our pillars of purpose are. Our 4 pillars of purpose are edify, focus, unite, and recover. And one of the ways that we found is best to embody those 4 pillars is that we do what's called check-in. Now, check-in was something that we started just to kind of get an update. That's a part more of our focus and recover area. Part of the thing that we address here is mental health and wholeness and wellness as a practice. And so knowing about each other and really getting into a space of community was a crucial part of the service. Today, the check-in is our most vital piece of service. Yes, we get the word. Yes, I preach every Sunday or 3 Sundays out of 4. There's a sermon every Sunday, but it is more important for us to be able to identify needs and edify one another as the hands and feet of Jesus. So a lot of what we do is physical. A lot of what we do is connective and community. And so it's really kind of fun. We do a lot of things together. We go on vacations together once a year now. We do study together when we have classes at the same time. We do a lot of things as a community and as a group. And the only way that small groups really function is in the space of community. The Acts 2 church was a community. They were selling what they had, so everybody had stuff. And so it's really about embodying that in a modern way. So let's see here. Check-in, again, is our most important part. But let me go back to year 1 because that was a fun year. So year 1, it was just really myself, Alex, and Alexander. And then we had occasional drop-ins from Raymani and Zamaya and Miss Lydia. And so that became a process for us, is just learning how to navigate with different types of people in service. But when we started, I wasn't yet fully licensed. I was the only one in the group who had formally accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior. And so one of the things we realized very quickly is that I had to start over. Like, I couldn't jump in and just start getting excited and started preaching. I had to start from scratch, because you can't assume that anybody knows anything when they're telling you that they're not really sure about Jesus as a whole, which was actually a blessing for me, because it allowed me to take back some of the things that I had learned in the sense of doctrine and not actually biblically, and reevaluate the things that I understood. And it actually turned out to be a really good process for me to learn how to communicate the gospel from a very basic message, from a beginning starting point, as opposed to jumping in with memory verses and all of that stuff. That stuff kind of came later. At the time we started, both of us were riding dirty. We didn't have, registration that was current. I didn't even have a valid driver's license. And I was going to work. Don't even ask. Listen, we were riding dirty. My credit score was 383. I had someone who had tried to put a death threat on me at the time. And on some occasions, on Sundays, there would be people who meant me ill that would sit and camp outside of the house. Our services were held then at 2039 West Pasadena Avenue, apartment 1. And so it was just really a lot to deal with at the time. But we continued to persist, and nevertheless, we did have quite a bit at first. One of the things that the gathering does that is unique, that we discovered quite early, is that I have what we call kind of satellite members. We have in-house gathering, and then we have those that are out and about, that are really a part of the gathering, praying for the gathering, being prayed for by the gathering and covered, but don't actually come here. And that's a unique piece. Rita doesn't come here, but she's a part of the gathering. Erica doesn't come here, but she's a part of the gathering. And so just creating the edified piece of our 4 pillars of purpose is super important, even if the person doesn't come to the house or can't come to the house because of what their schedule is like, or some other mitigating factor that we're just not aware of. In the beginning year, I would call Erica on the phone after every single service and redo the service again for her, because she could not physically be in present, and she wasn't at the time affiliated with any local body. So after 5 years, things look a little bit different. All of our cars paid off. We do not have a car note in the gathering. Not one. I'm licensed and ordained. Thanks, Mr. Sean. And I have in turn licensed 2 ministers. We have Minister Alexandria Taylor and Minister Erica Ware Nickelberry. And we have a discipleship, mentoring type relationship. So when they preach, or when they have other engagements where they're required to preach, then we are supportive of that process. I also do a small collective in that case to assist with any lessons or sermons that people have to preach. And likewise, we bounce ideas off of each other. Alex has a bachelor's degree in communications. I have 1 year left of school. Alexander is enrolled in school. We also have Raymani and Zamaya, who are enrolled in school and are present every week. As far as additional remote members, we have Sapphire, who's kind of always been remote. Even when they were in the house, they would be asleep in the room from work while we had service, and occasionally from the back of the room, we used to hear an amen or 2. Alex has been baptized. Alexander was baptized. And for our in-person membership, we went from 3 and now we have 5. We definitely have had a lot of rotation, growth, and movement. I think that it's important to note for the gathering that as we're in our 5th year, a lot has changed in a good way. I have a house. I'm sitting in a house right now, whereas I was in an apartment when we started. And a lot of our circumstances have changed for the better. The pandemic was an excellent year for the gathering, where a lot of churches were falling apart. Because of our format, we were still able to meet every week, even when we got COVID. Yeah, I got COVID one week. I got COVID much later, but I think Alexander caught COVID first out of all of us. And we did services by not Facebook, FaceTime. We did FaceTime services at the time. We do church trips. We've gone to the Grand Canyon. We've also gone to Great Wolf Lodge. We've gone to First Days of School. We've gone to First Days of School for pretty much everybody as we can, of course. We've done court cases together. Nobody's in trouble, just, regular family type stuff. We've done a lot. God has been really good to us this last 5 years. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys had a glimpse of some of the things that we were able to accomplish. Obviously, the baptisms, taking the communion together, making sure that we were all okay. And that's kind of the model that we have here. Continuing to keep us in prayer and continuing to keep us lifted as we continue to go forward as a community that's dedicated to advancing the gospel in an authentic and individual and personalized way. I think you guys know that a lot has changed in the last 5 years. Most of it for the better. Some of it just really took us off guard. But ultimately, God is still glorified and magnified in everything that we do here. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit about us and seeing some of the photos. And I'm going to leave you with my favorite photo from our awkward family photo shoot that we took. So God bless you, and I hope that he continues to keep you and strengthen you as you guys move forward, and continue to pray for the gathering as we continue forward, hopefully to year 6, 7, and beyond.